Welcome to the Casual Temple. This week, we have the wonderful Samantha Nacman, who bridges creativity, spirituality, and resilience in her work and life as a ceremonialist, ancestral medium, and energy worker. As a young mother, Sam weathered the challenges of being excommunicated from her religious and cultural communities. She has channeled her expulsion into ancestral healing by delving into earth-based spirituality and honing her intuitive abilities. As a practitioner, guide, and mentor, Samantha shares her journey with us today. Samantha, it's so great to have you on the Casual Temple.
It's so exciting to be here.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I just want to let everybody know how we got connected. Because it was from a previous guest, Emma Andrews. Everybody got to listen to Emma's interview. She's a wonderful, warm-hearted, just amazing person. I know, Sam, you know all about her.
Mhm.
Um, but Sam, Emma and I were talking after the interview, and she mentioned that she had a friend that went to CFBS, which is the Center for Babalan Studies. There was an event in August, and I was like, oh, I went to that. And so you reached out to me because I'm assuming you guys had a conversation. And then I was like, oh, cool. So we got to talking, and I saw that you were into like the stuff I like to talk about. And so I'm like, well, perfect. Let's chit chat. And so I'm very excited that you are so open and willing to come on today. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited. Shout out to Emma Andrews.
Shout
She's the
out.
coolest. She's the
Yes.
sweetest.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Well, so we start at whatever you consider the beginning of how you got onto this or your current path. We'll just start there.
Cool.
Mhm.
Well, whenever people ask me that question, for some reason I'm always brought back to like my origin story. And it's not a story that I can necessarily tell so succinctly.
Mhm.
Um, but the story that I'm always brought back to when I have that question is my expulsion from the Christian church, actually. In 2018, I was in school full time studying marketing and music, and I got pregnant with my daughter, who's now 6. And also at the same time, I was an organist for the church. I was a youth group leader. I was like all these things in the church. And so I was full. My responsibilities and my roles. I had so many related to the church and then also my life. Then I got pregnant around April 2018, but in the church that I was raised in, it's like the rules to not date anybody outside of the church, and then also absolutely not to get pregnant by somebody who's outside of the church.
Yeah.
Um, And those two things happened, 'cause life happens.
Yeah.
And that year, I was expelled, and then a month later, or I was expelled, and then that was like a huge public experience. It was sort of like my first ever canceling, I guess.
Oh,
Maybe my
right.
only canceling, like before I knew what canceling was, I guess. Um, And that was the point where I really questioned everything that I was raised to believe, everything about my feeling of being so devoted to the church, God, um, my faith, whatever that was at the time. Because I was so sure of my decision, to have my daughter, to commit to this, to also, you know, allow the consequences of my decisions and my actions to unfold,
Mhm.
knowing what they were. So with that, I I didn't really like let myself go into the space where I could explore other belief systems until 3 months later of my expulsion. And then to kind of like make the story a little bit shorter, I went digging and found some things about the church that I was not happy about, that
Mm.
I was not ever wanting to be affiliated with ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started digging for other information that wasn't about the church, but
Mm-hmm.
more so about how did I get here? Why was I born into this thing?
Right.
And how did my family get involved with this? And
Mm.
so naturally, that brought me into ancestral research. Like, how did grandpa get into this? And how did his dad? And then before that, what were we doing? So that's really what started me on studying Eastern religious texts and then Western religious texts, Christianity itself, how it became what it is now, and then also my own ancestral spirituality with that you and I have you know, some common threads
Yeah.
to share about that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's like the short, long version of the story.
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot there for sure. I'm curious if, I don't want to dig too much into your family stuff if it's too personal. So you feel free to, to, we're not going to go down there if that's where you want to go. But I'm curious about, because you mentioned your grandfather. So
Mhm.
how did they get affiliated with this particular church?
Yeah, so the church that I was born into, it
Hmm.
has been around in my paternal side for, with me included, it was 4 generations.
Wow.
So I'd be the fourth generation. So my grandfather was um, brought into the church
Hmm.
when his dad, so my great grandfather, um, helped to build the church.
Oh.
So he was one of the founding members, founding ministers, and I love telling this part in the story because it there's a lot of like lore that I'm still learning and I'm
Mm,
still uncovering and just what family members are willing to share,
right.
and then piecing it together with my own work at the ancestor altar. I'm like, oh, that's what they're saying.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Um, because my grandfather, you mentioned him on my dad's side, he was actually somebody that the rest of the family who didn't want to be involved or converted into this church,
Mm.
they were trying to save and protect with. I've heard stories of like aunties giving him like talismans to like
Oh,
protect him while he was in the church
right.
and trying to teach him different magic practices before
Hmm.
he was old enough to really be indoctrinated.
Right.
But before then, I'm still so curious and will probably always be digging into what was going on then, um, and who these women were, because it's such a feminine presence when I think about this part of the story in my line. Like,
Yeah.
what were they doing? How, like, I want to know. I
Right.
want,
Yeah.
I want to, I, I want to go back in time and
Yeah.
see it happen for myself.
Oh man. Yeah, for sure. And I'll say it definitely have a similarity in my background with my mother's family, who she's a Filipina. And kind of similarly, um, her her grandmother, right? Yeah, her grandmother, Dionisia, um she was like, doing certain thing, like my mom was like, oh, she would wake me up in the like 4 a.m. and we would have to go do prayers, but she was like, but I couldn't understand what she was saying, right? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, was she speaking Tagalog or not Tagalog, Waray, because we were Waray, was she speaking
Mm,
Waray? Like, what was going on? And she was like, no, it was something else. And I was like, okay, was it Latin? I'm assuming because, they're Catholic. She was like,
mm.
I think it was Latin. And so I was like, oh, okay. So they were doing or she was doing oh gosh, I always forget the name of it. What is it? The Expulsion. There's like a particular term where they're mixing Latin and then like um, other terms or whatever to do sort of like a devotional thing in the morning.
Wow.
So it's like that syncretic practice of like what folk Filipinos would do is like mix their like magic practice with like Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be
Mm-hmm.
like the same thing. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
they also mix Latin with like Tagalog, what I or Tagalog or whatever. And so yeah, and then my mom would tell a story of like how my grandmother, you were not allowed to go into the bamboo forest that surrounded their home unless you asked her first, because she had to go out and talk to the spirits that lived in that forest.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what happens is like one of my uncles didn't ask, went into the forest and
Oh
like broke his
man.
leg,
Oh man.
like broke his leg. And then she's having to like, one, she's like pissed off because now she has to go into the forest, like a big tray of like food and everything. And like for my mom said she was out there for hours, like telling them
Wow.
to like heal her because I think he developed like a fever and a sickness from the broken leg. Anyway, like
Mm.
like and it worked. Like he
She was putting in work.
yeah, she's putting in the work, man, for her family.
Yeah.
Don't listen to her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like so curious. Of course I ask my mom and like what specifically was she saying? I want to know specifics because I want
Mm-hmm.
to put it into like what I'm doing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's like, I don't know. She's, she was my mom was so funny. She's like, she was weird. And I was like,
Oh
of
my
course.
gosh. I'm like, I'm like,
I
I'm
know
like
exactly
pointing
like,
at
oh,
Ah,
daughter. Yeah.
me.
Exactly. I'm like, of course, yeah. So yeah, it is like you want to know like the like what were they saying? What were they doing?
Yeah.
And it was a thing I talked with Lane about, Lane Wilkin. I was like, doing these things, I feel, or doing these rituals with communing with the ancestors, I feel like we can learn those things.
Yeah.
We can ask them, what were you doing? Why were you doing these things? And get those messages in an intuitive sense.
Mm.
um Lane, he said that yeah, that's how he got some of his information, but because he's writing books, he's like, I had to like tie it with like scholarly
Right.
information.
You have to cross-reference
Yes.
your seen references and the unseen references and
Yes.
somehow make them. I mean, I don't even think you need to really like do a lot of work
Yeah.
when you're so clear or like
Yeah.
when you're so focused and connected on what it is that you're working to for some reason the word is harvest that's coming to mind
Yeah.
from from the past.
Yeah.
Like what's coming to mind is the story of like I was just doing like a fire with my friends. Um,
Hmm.
and we're not like at this moment in my life, we were not like a bona fide coven or anything where we were
Yeah.
like sitting and like doing formal ritual or ceremonies together, but I just like I felt like I wanted to like take an egg.
Mm.
It was one of my friends who was pregnant at the time
Yeah.
and she was talking about wanting like a mother blessing and just something like that to like mark this important moment in her life.
Yeah.
And I did not understand why I wanted to do this at the time, but I got an egg. I was like, I just feel like I need to do this for you tonight. And so I got an egg from the fridge and I ran it around. I ran it all over her body.
Yeah.
And I broke the egg and put it in the fire. And I later learned just through my own ancestral research, like what I was doing.
Yeah.
But not because I like read it in the book and I was like following a script. Literally, when they say like it's in your blood and bones, like
Yes.
that is
Yeah.
one of the stories that comes so strongly for me is that like it's not just us being creative.
Hmm.
It's not just intuition,
Right.
that's so plain and simple. Like it's in the DNA
Yeah.
and it's specific. It's
Hmm.
really, really specific too. I'm always so blown away when things like that happen and I'm loving hearing all the stories um about how it's happening for so many, so
Yeah.
many people. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's so cool. Yeah, I definitely know about the egg. Like when you
Yeah.
do the egg. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. Ah. And yeah, and I know that's in like other cultures too. They do a lot of stuff with like the egg and clearing and stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's so
Yeah.
cool. Um, yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I'm very curious about so in your family, with this situation of, being expulsion, expelled from your
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
Did you have any support or guidance, whether it was your family or people outside of the church that kind of helped you along?
Um, well, they were actually advised by the church elders not to,
Mm.
like not to go to my baby shower, not to like hang out with me
Mm-hmm.
afterwards. And it was a very blatant communication. Like there was like the social thing of just like, oh, are you gonna go hang out with her?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But there was also like the very um administerial way of just like this will happen to you if you do this,
Mm-hmm.
to like my friends and my community there. But I did have so much support from my partner.
Mm-hmm.
um I'm just like blown away by how devoted he was to our relationship, to me, to Cora, even before she was born, because he really was like a rock through all
Mm-hmm.
of it, and not because I asked him to,
Yeah.
but him, his family, and I have cousins also who had left the church before or who were already thinking about it. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I was expelled, they really made themselves available to me to be like, even if it wasn't perfect, we could just witness each other's pain around
Mm.
this. And that really was so healing for me, and I think for them as well, but also for our family in ways that I don't even know if a lot of us are aware of how healing it has been,
Yeah.
to connect about this this kind of like Christianized culture,
Mm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
that we were born into. So yeah, I didn't have so much support in terms of what I was used to, with like a whole church to go to and people who just like understood me and like where I was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But through that, people show up when the people who are here for you, I
Yeah.
think, um who are here for you in the version that you are becoming, just show up. Just pop up out of the ground. and
Right.
and yeah, and I'm just so grateful to have those people when I did.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad that you had some support and I'm glad that your partner was able to be there for you and for your baby. And it's just so, I don't know. I mean, it's just so weird to me. Like having a baby is such a natural process. It's just so weird to like expel somebody from a community. I don't know. That's just really heartbreaking to me. You know what I mean?
It's so old school.
Oh my gosh, it's so old school, but it's
Yeah.
like, but that's what humans do. That's what we do. We have
Yeah.
children, it's just, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's so weird.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm sorry you had to go through that, but I'm happy, you came out the other side and you have people in your life that, helped you along. So,
Yeah, and honestly, I'm grateful for the entire thing. Like
yeah.
I've been telling this story over and over ever since it happened in different
Hmm.
ways. And the more that I tell it, the more that I can really just like see how it was like and this is a big word, right? But it felt like destiny. Like this was
Right.
always going to
Yes.
happen. This needed to happen in order for this, and this for me to be here, to talk to you, to have the practices to revitalize everything that's being revitalized in me, and so I'm truly so grateful for it, even though there is a lot of pain,
Hmm.
and messed upness about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like the word destiny personally in describing your own story because I like to think all of us we are writing our own epics, our own. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it should sound like if you're going to tell your daughter the story, of how she came into the world and all the struggles mom and
Mhm.
your partner with, like that's like a story. That's like an
Yeah.
epic.
Yeah.
So I like thinking in those terms of like destiny and yeah, it
Yeah, and
applies.
like, she has like I tell her all the time, even though I not to taunt her or anything. I'm just like, Corey, you have no idea what my life was like before you. Like literally no clue.
Right.
Because she changed everything. My life is not at all what it
Hmm.
was before her. So she's gonna listen to this podcast in the future and she's gonna be like, "What?
What, Mom? What were you talking about?
Really? Really?"
Oh my gosh. Well, I definitely want to get into sort of the broader sort of connection to your Filipino spirituality, but I do want to talk about because you um did some course or did some learning at the Berkeley Psychic Institute. And the reason I was like, oh, we should talk about that is because the
Yeah.
school that I went to here in Seattle, the teachers they were involved in the Berkeley Psychic Institute. And so basically that's how I learned how to do aura clearings
Yeah.
and readings and sort of, all the processes are pretty much the same from what I can tell in the research.
hmm
So,
hmm
yeah, how did you get involved with them? And yeah,
Yeah. Well, you probably know how it is. You follow the crumbs.
right. Yes. Yep.
And
Yep.
one thing leads to another. The way that I was introduced to BPI was through New Earth Mystery School.
Mm,
Teacher, her name is Miriam Hasna, and she does like a monthly class about different topics, themes. I had taken maybe like a couple like free classes from her before, and I loved her, oh my gosh, her message. It's so authentic and so real and so true, but
hmm
also so like centered on in the heart and what there, like ju social justice. There's that too. Um, and I went to a class in the New Earth Mystery School community called Sacred Play and Amusement. And she had the wife, I forget her name. I wish her name. I know her first name is Susan. um, come and teach the second class. So there's usually two classes. There's the 1.0 and then the 2.0. And the 2.0, she came and guest taught about sacred play and amusement, but then
mm,
also brought in some practices, some tools, psychic tools from BPI, of course. Shared her story, how her and her husband started BPI, and then I went investigating. I was like, what is this thing? This sounds cool.
yeah.
And I took meditation 1. I've also taken healing 1 and 2, and the beginning of this year I just finished Women's Intuition
Mm,
with the director Rainey Augustus, I believe is her last name, but I could be wrong. Um, and it's really, I think it's a really cool space to
hmm
train the our psychic abilities, to really get a rein in on our intuition because I think that um, we can kind of hmm, I don't want to say the word like exploit. But I do think that we can exploit our own intuition sometimes. It can
mm-hmm.
get too far in one way, and
Yeah.
I love a practitioner who is so skillful in the energy work, in their psychic abilities, and somebody who hmm, who knows that there's so much intricacy when it
Mm,
comes to psychic work.
yeah.
And I've really found a place to have mentorship and teachers who can help me train all of this that's going on here
Yeah.
because it's just been running wild for so long that um you know it's like led to like health stuff and
Hmm
all these other things. And BPI, to sing their praises even more, I guess it's just like been like a way in the modern world for me to have teachers and mentorship and training in my gifts because I'm not walking around like finding these people left and right, So
Right.
I'm grateful for the online programs and that community to support me so that I can support, the people who find me.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful explanation of what they do. And it's pretty much exactly the way I found them, or at least the school here, which is called Psychic Awakenings. But it was more like, because I have this acupuncturist who's awesome, but like Psychic Awakenings is literally in the same house. And
Oh,
then like I
cool.
saw like a flyer and I was like, psychic, oh. I was like, you know what? I think I need this because I was having the same thing. Like I was having, I was doing a lot of meditation, I was doing a lot of magical practices. There were beings coming into my space. I didn't know how to manage
Mm,
that. I didn't know
mm-hmm.
how, like, what was going on. Like, what do I do with these messages? I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But they give you those tools, and that, and not that I don't think they're exactly the same. A lot of the tools, like we had psychic 101, 102, and then like the healing classes.
Hmm.
um but like it does give you some really good things to work off of and manage all of that energy, and I'm very big about like separation and boundaries. I
Oh my
don't think
gosh. Yes.
it's
Me
like,
too. I can totally tell. Like as
yeah.
soon as we got on the call, I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's such a breath of fresh air to me. And
Hmm.
that's just, I know you understand why.
Yeah.
Um, and the beings in your space thing, that
Hmm.
was huge for me
Yeah.
when I started doing work with VPI because I think I have like I found that I have a past life
Yeah.
where all I was doing was trance mediumship all the time.
Whoa.
Like all the time.
Whoa. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was like my only job basically.
Wow.
And so I think that's how I had been doing all my mediumship um
Mm.
for years. And then I started doing work with BPI and I was like, I can do it differently. And it's enjoyable
Right.
and I'm not freaked out.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I have sovereignty in my space and it's such a breath of fresh air. And honestly, there's so much depth to just having that ability from that lifetime to this lifetime and wherever else I'm gonna go after this.
Yes. Oh, that's so cool. Like to kind of see how you were probably doing a great job in your past life, but it was probably very intense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's like the only thing I had capacity for was just doing that all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, so
Oh
different,
man.
so wild.
It's making me think of, I'm sure you're familiar with Tyler Henry, who is the
The
medium.
Netflix guy?
Yes, the Netflix guy. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot he has like a Netflix show before. But I watched like a bunch of, I do think he's very talented. But man, when I was watching, I was like, Tyler, you need more boundaries,
And I
Tyler.
was like, sir,
You
can
need
I
to
help
turn it
you,
off.
please? And I'm like,
Yeah, because he was like, there was like a couple episodes where they showed him, he would just be laid out in his bed for days after he would
whoa,
do like intense readings.
oh my
And I was
God.
like, Tyler, you gotta,
I
like,
know.
shut the thingy off.
I don't make golden
Yes, it's just you in
perimeter.
there, nobody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And
um,
and I think that's like what I noticed when I literally only watched like the first episode of his
hmm.
Netflix documentary thing.
Oh
And
yeah.
I noticed that like right off the bat and I was like, he it's like you need I wanna
You want to
you know.
fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I know. It's like literally a whole timeline away.
Right,
And I'm over
exactly.
here like, hmm.
I hope you figure it out soon, Tyler. No.
Yeah. I
Um,
hope so too.
yeah, I think he's figured a little bit out, honestly, because it seems like he's a little healthier and gained some weight. And I think he has a partner that's like invested in his health. So I think it's getting better.
Good.
But, I'm just like, I think that's, maybe sort of a drawback in his case is like he got it so early and, he was able to practice so early and probably like your past life, right? It was just like everybody
Yeah.
was like, I
Yeah.
need this. Give me,
Yeah.
give me, give me. And you're like, yes, I'm a giving person. Yes.
Yeah.
But man, so yeah, so I'm glad that you found tools. I'm glad I also found tools to kind of manage it
Yeah.
because it's a lot.
And I
Um,
want that sort of set up for all psychics out there. I
yes.
guess I want to say that on this podcast, like there's a different way. If you're
Yeah.
exhausted after channeling or doing mediumship, like
Yeah.
you it doesn't have to be that way.
Yes.
It's not the only way.
Right. Yes.
Mhm.
You can have like a life
Yeah.
and do your work.
Yeah. You can do more than one session a day
Exactly.
if you want to.
If you want to. Yes. Oh yeah. Definitely. So yeah, really good tools like calling back your own energy from where you left it around. Like it's good
Mhm.
stuff, guys, if you're
Really.
interested in your own psychic abilities or have them and want to, maybe look into the Berkeley Psychic Institute, see if it's a good fit.
Tell them we sent you.
Yeah, tell me sent you. Good stuff. Um, well, now I have kind of a big question because I'm still trying to puzzle this out. So I've been trying to ask all the wonderful
Mhm.
Filipinos that have been talking with me, like,
Yeah.
what is your perspective on Filipino spirituality and or whether how it relates to your specific family or the wider cultural community? That's a big question.
It really is.
Yeah.
I I guess right now in current time,
Yeah.
I am really just so grateful for the elders who have made themselves available to the wider community. Um, I have the book here, the Babaylan book
Oh,
by
yeah.
Dr. Lenny Strobel and Ate Lenny. I'm so grateful for having met them and for their writings, for their publishings, for all the work that they are doing to make it to make a perspective on um, Filipino spirituality available because I have not had teachers and
Yeah.
I've had one mentor and she was not even trained in our own cultural practices. She was trained by the Q'ero people
Mm.
in Peru. And so to have that ability to weave in wisdom from, people like Dr. Lenny and Atta Lily, they they really have been giving me personally somewhere to start
Mm-hmm.
with returning to the old original ways and bridging this communal gap for me specifically. Like I live in Richmond, Virginia. There's not a lot of Filipinos here. I don't have I don't have a big Filipino community like I did before. And the church that I was raised in was basically all Filipino people.
Mm.
And so I personally feel really grateful to have been welcomed in some way or to have like dipped my toes into this this community that has been stirring. And I also am very particular about my practice. Um, I really want it to feel true to me
Mm-hmm.
um, on more levels than just culturally. Um,
Yeah.
Something that I've been working through a lot actually is doing it the right way, how the Babaylan is described. I still need to keep healthy separation between
Mm-hmm.
what is being said. The Babaylan should be like what is driving the Babaylan to do the work that she is doing,
Right.
and what is she is doing it for? What are they doing it for? Um, it's it's been a little difficult for me to come from such a self-sacrificial, devoted to, to the church background and come into this space in Filipino spirituality where it is so community focused, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But but when I bring all of that wealth of knowledge into my practice where I'm learning how to listen to myself and act on my own authority,
Mm-hmm.
there is some tension that I come up against.
Oh,
There
yeah.
is some stuff that I'm like, well, I want to do it this way, but this is what the elders are saying.
Yeah.
This is what the elders are saying how I should do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I love talking about business and money
Yeah.
and I don't hear a lot of that conversation being had in the Filipino spiritual communities, which I
Mm,
think I would love to have those conversations, not
yeah.
because I don't know. And I want to know.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess that's where I am in current time with um and I guess for lack of a better word, like an indigenous spiritual practice.
Hmm.
Um, that's how I feel about, how we got connected. And also, I'm excited to see how it changes because I think that all wisdom traditions should continue to be updated and evolved with the people who are stewarding stewarding them forward.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot there for sure. And I'm
I
kind
feel
of
like I
think,
kind of just let.
yeah, no, I mean, you kind of have to because to be honest, you're trying to figure out, sort of how, like, where Filipino spirituality, like, was that pre-colonialism, because we have to look
Mhm.
at, the Spanish colonialism and then what was going on pre-colonial, but also understand, you and I are American Filipino
Mhm.
Americans, Filipino Americans in a modern time, so how do it's a lot of things, right? Like
It
you're
is,
trying to
yeah.
like fit together a lot of things. And I'm on the same sort of like trying to see how my current practice, which is definitely more Western for sure, like evolved out of more Western practices, like how do I incorporate sort of my more Filipino indigenous roots. And I do think that, and I know we're going to talk about your ancestral,
Hmm.
altar and all those things, because I do think that's a big piece of it. I do think there's like a good chunk of it that has to do with sort of real, like a really solid ancestral practice.
Hmm.
Um, but also the thing that you mentioned, and I was like, yeah, 100% is like I do think community is a huge part of like the Filipino psyche. But like you're saying, like the when somebody wants to break out of the community, that's where that tension happens of like, I kind of want to go my own way a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That's where that
Yeah.
tension happens. And I see it with like my mother's family in, because she's come from she's in the provinces, they're from the provinces on Leyte, on Union. So it's like a really small town. I'm basically related to everybody, you know. Um, and it's funny that they don't have anything about money because, like, there's a lot of stuff about money, in the Philippines because
Hmm.
there's a lot of
Hmm.
poverty, and my
Hmm.
family is not excluded from that. So it's like, when you're trying to like make your own way, make your own money, separate from the group, and then but then there's that community pull of like, well, we also need money. We also
Yeah.
need, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really hard balance. And yeah, I hope we all kind of get to a place where we sort of figure it out.
I think we are. I mean, at least in the more puti communities
Yeah, yeah.
that I am, I'm learning from and with, like the conversation with like spirituality and money
Hmm.
is something being had, and I love the perspective that I've been been working with, which is that there is like a financial system, and this is a teaching that I've learned from Pilar Lesko. She is a mystic and a business mentor. She has talked about there being a financial system embedded into the earth already, and it's our practice or our work to learn from the earth and have the earth teach us how to
Mm.
exchange with each other,
Yeah,
how to share resources in the way that that's here, that's already here, and not in ways
yeah,
that are just created by a certain kind of culture
yeah,
and a certain kind of person. So I think it is available, and it is still from where I sit, it still looks pretty taboo to talk about when we're talking about spirituality
yeah.
and when we're talking about activism and social justice work as well. I think those two things um, come up against each other a lot, and it's like, what do we, how do we, uh, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Money is such a topic. It's interesting because I literally just I had a guest or had an interview yesterday with a guest, and we literally talked about money.
Oh, what's
Like,
going on with money, man?
yes. And she's like, she does like intuitive readings about sort of your own money story and how that like affects you from attracting money and stuff like that.
Cool.
And I love what you said about like sort of the idea of looking to like Mother Earth for like
Mhm.
Mother Earth knows how to like move energy around. If you think about it, that's what money is.
She's like,
She
she
knows.
stewards all of the resources.
Yes. She's like, I
She's
got it.
she's she's got all of it.
Yes. And she's like, you guys are doing it wrong.
Like, hello, don't you see
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
doing here?
I
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. She's got it, and we're not listening.
I know. We're not listening.
Yeah, yeah.
I do think that in a lot of ways, like that is like a good thing about sort of the Filipinos are very resourceful in that sense, right? Of like,
Mhm.
reuse, recycle. Like
Yeah.
we're kind of really good at like
Oh,
that sort of idea. Um, but like, yeah, so what is the process that you went through sort for doing your own sort of ancestral work for yourself so people can kind of see what how you found your way.
yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, when I was expelled, I went
Hmm.
just looking.
Yeah.
I actually went to a couple like mega churches for a while just to dip my toe into that to see, and then reading Eastern religious texts. And then I got into my ancestral practice because I wanted to understand how my family, how I then became part of the Christian fundamentalist church and
Mm.
religion.
Hmm.
So then I went backwards in time, basically just like investigating the story of my lineage on my dad's side specifically. My mom's side, it's still like recently Catholic,
Mm.
and part of my practice at the moment is honoring that and, bringing in like the folk Catholicism practices with the earth-based spiritual practice, um, and communing with specifically like the Blessed Mother in the way that I would commune with like a deity essentially, because that's how
Hmm.
I perceive her to be, and that relationship is still um unfolding and becoming and going deeper, but I found like a lot of healing in 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 honoring and worshiping um a feminine god
Hmm.
essentially,
Yeah.
and seeing myself in her has been really powerful. Um, and so when I did sort of the ancestral investigation, it was prompted by just like books that I could find. There's just like this book I'm looking at right now. It's just called Ancestral Medicine, just written by some guy. I don't remember his name.
Is it
Um,
Virgil?
no, here, I'll pull it down. It's
Ancestral. Oh, is it Daniel 4?
yes.
Yes.
Look
That's a
at
good one.
that.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
this one.
amazing. Oh my
hmm
God.
And so I just did the practices. I did
Yeah.
the practices in here. And there's my grandparents.
Oh, how
And
cute are they? Yeah.
yeah, Grandpa George wanted to make an appearance in the podcast, I guess.
Oh, I love it. Hello, Grandpa George.
Um, And so I would do these practices for myself, and I would, get the intel and write everything down, and
Yeah.
figure and do the massaging out of the story. I It's really awesome how things work when people decide to come into this work
Hmm.
at the time of people also seeking the teacher, because
Yeah.
one of the people who mentored me and really awakened and opened up my gifts in a way that I don't think anybody else has, because of how open her gifts are. I have this theory that or not even theory, I'm sure you've experienced this when like two auras come together.
Hmm.
There's just like opening of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You like kind of experience what the other person is experiencing in their space because you're like
Mm,
sharing
yeah.
information. And she mentored me. This was my friend, um, Rachel Hagloon, who is a carrier of the Cara lineage, people of Peru. She mentored me in person, and for about a year and a half, I would see her every other week, and we would do hands-on healing, and she would train me. She would train me to do hands-on healing. She would train me to um, connect with the directions. She taught me how to make offerings to the earth. So she really gave me this like introduction into um, earth medicine.
Hmm.
And she is of Filipino ancestry, and I forget her other side, but she's mestiza.
Hmm.
And so it was this beautiful experience of realizing that like I can listen to myself, and I'm I was like hearing her ancestors and delivering messages for her in sessions, and she was also helping me to, go back in time with the shamanic healing work, um to see where I came from, like
Hmm.
lifetimes, from the lifetime perspective. And that's when I learned of that past life where all I was doing was letting spirits come in and out of me all
Yeah.
live long day, and um, helping birth babies, and really being like a woman leader.
Yeah.
Um, and then bridging all of that into the practice today, I still, commune with the directions. They're still a huge part of everything that I do, actually. Um, and not just isolated into the practice. She she showed me how to make offerings to the earth, and I've taken that and I've learned how to make offerings at the ancestral altar. Um, and I found other teachers along the way when she decided that she's done doing that kind of work.
Uh-huh.
It really felt like it was just time for me to learn from her. Um,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, it's just been this process of finding people that are speaking my language, essentially,
Mm.
that I
Hmm.
feel like there's something there that we connect on. Um, Personally, I'm not somebody who'll just like Google search things and just like go with what's the most popular. Um, I like to I like to let life bring these teachers and these books to me. Um, because I feel there's like a richness to that experience that
Hmm.
I really long for in with the synchronicity and the timing of things. My practice at the ancestral altar really um it's very lax these days, I will
Hmm.
say. I'm not so heavy in the like, I'm gonna work with, so and so, and we're gonna do this deep healing, and they're gonna teach me so much. Like
Hmm.
recently, I've been approached by, oh, she's my great times four grandmother
Wow. Yeah.
on my mother's side, and she literally was just watching Yellowjackets with me. I don't know if you watched that TV show.
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah.
No, it's like really witchy,
Oh,
and I won't
wow.
get into it now. Um, but she's literally just like watched TV with me, and and
I love
through us
it.
watching TV, she's like teaching me about power, and she's
Hmm.
teaching me about ruthlessness,
Yeah.
and it's a very different way, much more casual, like casual temple
Right.
vibe, I
That's right.
guess,
Yes.
of doing ancestral healing and learning
Yeah.
from the ancestors than being so like, I guess, like hard
Hmm.
on
Yeah.
yourself for it. And
Yeah.
that's, yeah, that to catch you up into present time. That's where I'm at right now with it. And I love it. There's a lot of
Yeah.
spaciousness there.
I love it. I love being able to watch, TV with your great, 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 great. That's so awesome. I think,
Yeah.
oh, that is so great. Like, who wouldn't want to do that? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
lovely. And I
And it,
love that. Yeah.
yeah. I also love that like at this point they're like choosing me. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like calling like I
Right.
need someone for this thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm just living my life and they're now like approaching me and
Yeah.
it's cool. It's really cool.
Oh, yeah, that's so cool. And I like that yeah, and I'm very much in agreement of like, because, we're all busy people. We definitely want to make time for them, but it's
Mhm.
like, having to go through these like Instagram big time rituals, like you can do that if you feel like inspired to do that and you just want to do it, but most of the time, it's like you said, it's just they kind of come in and you're like, oh, hey.
Right. And it's like most of it now for me is like a matter of like turning towards them instead
Mm-hmm.
of just like pretending like they're not there,
Right, like,
that yeah. You're like, "Ugh."
oh my goodness. Yeah. And then it sounds like you had just like a wonderful mentor and teacher to help guide you through sort of your own practice. And I think that's really wonderful. And also like Daniel's book, Ancestral Medicine, is such a good, it is intense though. Like the work that he does in there, it's like I did one of my family lines and I was like,
Oh,
I don't know. I'm like, maybe that's my lifetime. Maybe in this lifetime, I just do the one.
yeah. Yeah. I'm just kind of crazy. That's all. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I don't want to do the rest. But it is, especially when you're removed from, like at least if, you're Filipino or like my family, we have this all this estrangement energy in my family. So it just feels kind of lonely, right? You're just like this lonely soul going about in your family.
Hmm.
But when you do
Hmm.
this work and then you do like the ancestor that I wound up connecting with on my mother's side was like deeply, deeply ancient. Like she was like thousands of years old.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was like, but I know her energy. I was like, I know her, like her energy exists in my mother, in my sister, and in me, like that sort of spark of that energy of who she is. And so I was like, I guess we're not that alone. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we have support that we can't see,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
and how wonderful that it exists out there if we just sort of like tune in and connect to it or ask for it, or like if
Yeah.
they want to sit and watch TV with you, we're like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, and I'm with you in the estrangement energy there because
Yeah.
like I like unless they listen to this podcast or they're like on like following on my website or my page and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like my family doesn't know.
Right.
Like my family doesn't know everything that's going on for for us.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
and I used to have a lot of like frustration around that
Oh,
and
of
a lot of
course. Yeah.
like, oh, like y'all have no
I
idea,
know. Like
you
all
know?
this work I'm doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, but I'm all, but now at this point, like, I guess I want to share something really beautiful is that my
Hmm.
dad is now like, he's still, in the church and he's
Yeah.
still himself, but now he's like working on his mental health and
Oh, that's
he's
so
really
cool.
being like gentle with himself. And I really just
Yeah.
feel like it does ripple
Of
whether
course. Yeah.
that we tell them that we're doing this or not. Like,
Yeah.
and what you put out, will come back to you
Yeah.
in the way. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm especially, like sometimes I get in the space of like, man, once you're like 50, that's it. Like that's who you are the rest of your life, right? You're never going to change. It seems like that sometimes, but that's so cool that your dad is like, opening up and exploring and trying to, feel better, like feel good about himself.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah. I'm glad. This is like new, very fresh, very new too.
Oh, that's so exciting. Oh my goodness. Um, I guess I do want to touch on sort of because you did mention your like past life stuff. Did this
Yeah.
come through sort of doing the ancestral work as well, like sort of the same modality or?
Yeah, so it was like a few different things that helped me bring that to my awareness. It was that mentorship work with Rachel.
Hmm.
And then there's the school also. You can tell I'm like a huge nerd with all of this stuff and like whatever. Not, it's not that whatever I can get my hands on, it's
Right.
whatever's there that feels that feels good for me to be
Yeah.
involved with. Like I love. There's this school called the Sacred Way Mystery School. It was a woman, an indigenous, her ancestry was Lakota and Norse. So she started the school. It was in person in Colorado. I don't, I think it's still around, but not in the same way that it was when I was able to learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of journeying. So a lot of, and I probably shouldn't have been doing this when I was doing it, but
Oh, right.
I did. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of like leaving the body
Right.
and then going back into the body. So I spent about 2 years doing basically that was like the main modality that they taught was trance journeying. And through that, piecing the mentorship and then trans journeying into all these different realms for all these different reasons. And then also the work with BPI.
Mm-hmm.
Those three pieces really showed me, this is how I'm running my energy from BPI. This is who I'm engaging as
Right.
in terms of the trans journeying. And then with the mentorship, it really was like the foundation for me to understand what I was experiencing when I was doing mediumship, when I, because when you have your aura set up in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't my energy that was setting up my space. It was
Hmm.
her. Um, and so what helped me, or I guess like the modal, I don't even know if it's a modality necessarily, but I learned how to perform exorcism
Mm-hmm.
in the healing classes with BPI. And I would trade healings with
Mm-hmm.
other students with BPI. And there came a certain point when I couldn't I not hold, but it, the repair work and the separation work between this me and that past life me
Mm-hmm.
um, had to come in with the help of my ancestors, actually. So, with the ancestors I was working with at the time, they they actually were given the opportunity to get their shit together and help me create that separation between that lifetime and this lifetime in being a medium. Um, so cutting cords, uh, working with my guides, working with my ancestors to help facilitate that. It has been a process, also in therapy, um, who was able to have that kind of conversation with me, who was open to that possibility that that's what was going on with me. And she allowed me to, she like facilitated a conversation between that version of me and this me.
Mm.
Um, to do the separation work, to do the cord cuttings, to do all of the different modalities that needed to come in order for me to have this nice setup that I have that I am grateful to have now, where I'm not just letting things come in and out all the time, and um, I can have a conversation and be in communication versus being possessed, basically.
Right. Yeah.
I hope I answered your question.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. It sounds like, yeah, you're trying to commune with your sort of the past life that was very
Mm.
present in your
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Um, but also form those separations with them.
Yeah,
Um,
I think what I was doing
mhm.
in that was like I love it fed my ego. It
Oh,
I felt so powerful
of
to do it
course.
that way. I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
It was so and it made me yeah, it made me feel so powerful, but it wasn't really getting me anywhere, actually.
Right.
Like
Hmm.
I was just like tired and also kind of frustrated that not a lot of people, the ego, my ego was like, nobody sees how powerful,
Oh, right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I wasn't making any progress, or I wasn't growing in the way that I wanted to grow when I
Yeah.
was doing it like that.
Oh, that's so fascinating for sure. Yeah, you're kind of noticing you're like sort of spinning your wheels, right? Like this is just not moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's really making me think of all sorts of things. Have you ever seen like, because when we would do readings like similar to the Berkeley Psychic Institute, we would have people come in from the public and we would do like a healing clearing.
Mhm.
I would see people like I would see their ancestors come in and I would see them like superimposed on them. And it was like the message was like, oh, this person is like me. Like it was like a reincarnation. Like have
Yes.
you seen that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And this
Well,
one guy, he was
that's,
oh, go ahead.
I mean, that's just literally what was going on with me.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this one, he was actually a Filipino guy, a Filipino
Mm.
American. And I saw like this big chieftain and it was like on top of and I was like, I think you've reincarnated quite a few times down your family line. Like
Yeah.
I keep seeing because he kept changing
Yeah.
like all the time. And he was like, really? Like, it's such a weird thing, it's just so weird. And I was
To
like,
like
that's what I'm being shown. Yeah.
be, like you were an ancestor.
Like you were your own great 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 granddad, that's
Yeah.
weird.
It is pretty weird. It
Yes.
is pretty weird.
Oh,
I
yeah.
actually I have a theory about why that's like a thing with Filipino culture
Oh,
actually.
yeah, yeah.
And you can tell me what you think about it too. It's like
Hmm.
I think that's just how I have this theory that there's something in the Filipino DNA
Hmm.
that makes us so natural. Like it's so natural for us to be able to do that for some reason. I don't
Yes.
know why. I just think that's how all the mediums in the culture have done
Hmm.
it before. And I
Yeah.
think we're at a time right now where we're learning these tools and we're doing like ancestral karma past life, like you're like,
Yeah.
to learn a different way that's not of that's not of the culture,
Yeah. Hmm.
actually,
Yeah.
to put it plainly.
Yeah. Ooh, that is so fascinating because I do think you're very much onto something. And similarly, I have there's this other uh gentleman that does a podcast. It's called The Spirit Box, and it's Dara Mason. It's an amazing podcast. He's Irish, and he has come to the sort of the similar conclusion, but for like the Irish
Mm.
people, because similarly with like Irish people, there's a lot of psychic mediums. Very like there's a lot of similar. There's too many, and I'm part Irish. Like my dad is like part Irish. And so I'm like, I see way too many similarities between like the
Yeah.
Irish culture and the Filipino culture.
Hmm.
And both, were had colonialism imposed upon them, but they were
Hmm.
still very tied to the land, to the spirits around them. And so that's what the struggle is,
Hmm.
living in the modern age with these sort of very easy abilities that come to just by
Hmm.
being the DNA or the
Yeah.
the yes,
Yeah.
I do think it is like a thing. um so that's fascinating that you're kind of seeing that as like um part of like just sort of the blood and the DNA of who we are. That's really cool. So one question sort of before we kind of get into like how you help people and guide them, is you have, sort of the title of the ceremonialist.
Mm.
Um, and so why do you think that ceremony is important to people?
Yeah. I think it's um I think it's so nat oh I think it's so first of all, I think it's a very natural thing. And I think it's something that if you're an artist or if you're creative, you understand without even calling it ceremony, maybe.
Mm, hmm.
And I think it's so important because it's a way of expression that we, I think our spirits are longing for
Mm-hmm.
in the world today. Um, like there's ceremonies for everything, right? Like I think about when I was an organist in the church and how I was facilitating ceremony every Sunday, every Wednesday, and that it, that is creating something, that is honoring something, and maybe it's not something that um that I would honor right now.
Yeah.
But I think that we need time to look at what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And with ceremony, you really are carving out that time and space to be intentional with your actions, with your choices to honor something, and to and have the opportunity to be with forces, energies, possibilities more powerful than us here um, on Earth. And something that I think that we're all longing for is that sort of expression with each other,
Mm.
especially because something that I I just feel like in this lifetime I'll be learning from and working towards is communal ritual and community spiritual practice in ways that aren't the Christian church and in ways that are healthier and non-dogmatic as best as possible. Um, because we whether we know it or not, there are people who know that we need this, and there are people who have a feeling maybe, but they're not quite sure what it is. Like we're all so hungry for this kind of connection with something
Mm-hmm.
bigger than us. And it's beyond just like thinking about it and praying to it. It's something that I think our bodies need,
Yeah.
that I think we are out of practice with. And it's something that we need as communities as well to gather around things that are more meaningful than um, the things that we gather around today. Like I think right now what's coming to mind is like getting a drink at a bar. There's nothing wrong with that. I
Right, right.
serve I serve I serve libation
Right.
to the ancestors,
Yeah.
when they want it. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think that that amplifies something if
Mm-hmm.
we center ceremony, or we center um, focus around something that's not so meaningful to us. That has power too.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I think there's power in community and with people when we remember ceremony as a powerful act for what we want, not just what we are told to bring focus and reverence to,
Right.
but saying like we can create ceremony, we can have time and space to honor and ask and desire and create, or to destroy.
Yeah.
There's that side too. What we want, what we think, in whether that's individually or together with each other. I think that it's a technology that
Mm-hmm.
we get to use,
Yeah.
like who and I think we should be using it.
Yeah.
We need it, honestly.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's making me think I'm gonna get this Bible quote wrong, people. I am. But there's a quote, it says like more than two gather in my name, or something, like God saying like more than two gathered in my
Mm-hmm.
name, I
Mm-hmm.
am
Mm-hmm.
there, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And not, and of course there's like the church aspect, but if you think of God or whatever the source or whatever, it's like that's amplified. It's more, even more present, right? It's
Yeah.
present as an individual, but it's even more present.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure your experience, especially with meditation, if you meditate with a group of people, there is like palpable stuff
Mm.
going on like that
Mm-hmm.
happens with other people doing the same practice.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I love how you explained it so beautifully about ceremony and how we need it. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for asking. I don't get to
Yeah.
talk about it that much. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, tell us how you kind of, you do a lot of guide work with people and
Mhm.
help folks along their path. Can you tell us a little bit about that? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I do free aura healings on Friday afternoons.
nice.
So every Friday afternoon, there's 3 spots available. And I offer, I do the full aura healing, and then we end with the next step with me that you can decide to do if you want to, or and next step without me. So you're left just, you're left feeling refreshed.
Right. Yeah.
And you have choices. You have things that you can work with beyond a space with me, which I think is I love and is all I believe is also important as a practitioner.
Yeah.
Um, I am in the midst of restructuring my the metaphysical infrastructure of my world, my business, but I will be opening up mentorship applications, private mentorship applications for people, and that's because I'm wanting to work long term with people to really go at a pace that's sustainable, to meet people um, and walk with people in a way that stewards a transformation that is lasting. For a long time, I've been doing just like one-off mediumship sessions and human design sessions, and by the time this podcast airs, I will no longer be offering them in the one-on-one, one-off way, but I will be offering a full service spiritual consultation where I will bring in um, that modality, human design. I'll pull up your charts if you want me to, all the different kinds. And then, we'll consult with your guides, ancestors, also run energy. I'll teach you what I know in that space. And I guess the last thing, I am doing a quarterly energy forecast
Ooh,
this year. So by the time this airs, I would have just done Q2, and then Q3 will be next, and then Q4 in October at the end of this year. Yeah, that's all
wow,
for
very
me.
cool. I do love energy forecasts. It's
Yeah.
very fun. So, um, oh goodness. Well, gosh, Sam, you've shared so much wisdom already, and now I'm going to ask you to share some more. But do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to share and leave us with today?
Mm. Um, when in doubt, go to the earth. When in doubt, go within. There's so much information available about ancestral healing and spirituality, um, but the most wise guide that you can have is yourself. And the one I believe that I think does not get enough credit is the earth herself. And so in any space, I will always direct you back to her because when you learn how to listen, you have everything you need. Um, and I and it's simpler. It's
Yeah.
simpler than you might think.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wonderful things to leave with. Yes, I totally agree. Mother Earth, she is so smart and she has so much to offer.
She's
And
so rich.
she's
She's
so
got
rich. She's
yeah.
so patient. She receives all of the things and makes them bright and shiny again. Like, she's great.
hmm hmm hmm
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Sam, for giving us so much of your time. And like, I'm so happy that we got connected. And thank you to Emma. And thank you to CFBS. So,
Yeah, thank you, Merrily. This was so fun to be in your casual temple.
yes, I hope it was casual for you.
Oh yeah, I guess. If you want
Great.
to call that deep
Yeah.
dive casual.
I know. It's that's how we lure people in, right?
Yeah, we're like,
It's
it'll be
casual.
chill. It'll be chill. Just go. Just yeah.
Let's go with it. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your support means the world to us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with others who might find this content valuable. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more enlightening discussions. Your engagement helps us grow, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being a part of the Casual Temple community.